This is the annual meeting of the district. My name is Pam Marsh. I live in New Haven. I'm your moderator. And as we begin, or before we begin, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Zoom etiquette, and then I'm going to ask people to introduce themselves as being here so that the clerk, who has a thankless job of trying to get people's names down in a virtual environment, can do that. So first on the Zoom etiquette, I can only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can see only 25 of you at a time, and we have 28 participants at the moment, which just means that Don Griswold, and I don't know who else is going to try help watch for hands and other things. Please stay muted unless you are talking. If you are talking and you have a camera, I'd appreciate it if you turn your camera on while you're talking. If it looks like I'm looking off to one direction, that is because I am. My camera is on my laptop and I'm looking at you on my big screen so I can see you better. I'm not trying to ignore anybody or be distracting of anybody. And so we're going to go through the people who are here. What I'm going to suggest is that we begin with the school board and that Dawn identify herself and then call on another school board member to identify themselves until we get through all the school board members. And then we will pick up the people who are not on the MAUSD board. So, Dawn?
Thanks, Pam. I'm Dawn Griswold. I'm a representative from Moncton. And the next person I see on the list is Andrew Morton.
I'm Andrew Morton, representative to the board from New Haven. And then I see Kevin Hansen.
Hi, I'm Kevin Hansen, and I represent Bristol to the board. And the next one on my screen is Kristen Blanchett.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm Kristen Blanchett, representative from Moncton, and I'm mom of 2 children that are at the high school right now. Thanks. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Let's see. After Kristen, how about Caleb Elder?
I'm Caleb Elder, board member from Starksboro. And how about Krista?
Hi, I'm Krista Seringo, and I am a representative from Bristol. And I'm going to log off and then log back on because I'm having minor technical issues. So forgive me, but I'll be back.
Okay. And let's see. After Krista, how about Dave Sharp?
Dave, your mic's not on. Turn your mic on, Dave.
There we go. I was
Much
pushing
better.
the wrong button. Technology for us old guys. I'm Dave Sharp. I'm a representative of Bristol. I have 2 grandchildren in the Bristol school system.
Okay. How about Liz Zayer?
Hi, I'm Liz Sayre, and I'm a Bristol representative with a son in the high school.
How about Rob Backlund?
Hi, I'm Rob Backlund. I'm a Lincoln representative, and my daughter will be a member of the class of 2037.
How about Sarah LaPearl?
Hi, I'm Sarah LaPearl. I'm from New Haven, and I have 2 kids, one at Mount Abe and one at Beeman.
And how about Sarah McLean?
Hello, Sarah McLean here, Lincoln representative. I have 2 daughters, one in 4th and one in 7th.
Steve Rooney?
I'm Steve Rooney. I'm a representative from Starksboro.
think I got everybody. And how about our student rep? I see Bella.
Hi, I'm Bella Courier, and I'm the student representative, and I'm a sophomore at Mount Abe.
And I can't tell, is Hannah Gallivan, our other student rep, on?
I think I might be coming up as Hannah. I think she was going to join us at 7. So I need to change my screen. Sorry, folks.
Nope. I think I got everybody, Pam, but you can double check if I missed any board members.
Okay, were any board members left out of that? So then I'm going to go through and ask school administrators to identify themselves and to, identify themselves with their position and where they live. So let's start with you, Patrick.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Patrick Reen. I'm superintendent. I live in the town of Lincoln, and I have 2 kids that attend Mount Abe. Want me to call on folks from there?
Yeah, call on.
All right, Katrina.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katrina DiNapoli. I am from Moncton. I'm the assistant superintendent, and I have 2 graduates from our district.
Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan Brule. I'm the Director of Student Support Services, and I am a resident of New Haven, and I have 3 children, 2 graduates, and a son who is a junior at Mount Abe Union High School.
Floyd.
Floyd Davison, the business manager. I have 3 grads, 4 in, and 1 coming in a couple of years.
Right, and I am seeing at least 1 building principal. Pam, would you like me to continue on?
Sure.
Okay, I see Shannon Warden.
Shannon Warden, I'm the principal at Mount Abe, and I live in Ferrisburg.
And I don't see any other administrators, building or central office on my screen or on the list, but if I'm missing someone, now's the chance to speak up.
All right, so now we're going to try and go through people, and I'm not positive I'll catch everybody, but we'll try. So we've seen Bella, Krista, Shannon. Paul Forlenza, would you introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Paul Forlenza. I'm on the select board in Lincoln. My kids went to the Lincoln Elementary School about a century ago, and they're now grown.
Okay, Jamie Schultz.
Hi,
Schulte.
Jamie Schulte from Moncton, and I have a 7th grader.
And Diane Cushman.
Hi, I'm Diane Cushman. I live in Bristol. My 2 children went to Mount Abe, and I went to Mount Abe.
Wow, congratulations.
That's how old I am.
Kathleen Bushy.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Bushy, and I worked at Mount Abe for a long time.
I remember you, Kathy. My daughter and some of my exchange students were there.
I remember you, Pam.
Let's see. I think we've already met Jennifer Bauer. Is that right? That's not right. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Bauer. I'm the clerk, and I live in Lincoln, and I have 2 boys that graduated from Mount Abe.
Oh, great. Thanks, Jennifer. And then let's see. Jamie, Diane, Kathleen, Rick Esty. Rick, are you there? Sure. Go on. Zoom user. Could you identify yourself and your town?
Hi, it's Barb Torian. I'm the treasurer, and I'm from New Haven, and I do have a graduate from Mount Abe.
And why are you hiding behind Zoom user?
Because it probably asked me something and I didn't know what to do. Now that I'm retired and all.
Christopher Ross.
Hi, I'm Christopher Ross, and I'm a reporter for the Addison Independent.
Welcome. Bill Jesdale. Is Bill Jesdale or someone using Bill Jesdale's name present? All right, we'll move on. Eugenie. Is Eugenie present? Brenda Tilburg. You've popped up on my screen. Could you say hello and what town you're from? You're muted, Brenda. Unmute yourself.
There we go.
Okay. Go ahead, Brenda.
It took me
You're
about
on.
15 minutes to log on. There may be other people who are hoping to join you.
Well, we're just asking people to introduce themselves and their town, and if you want to say what your affiliation with the school has been. Many of us know you fairly well.
I'm a very rested retiree.
And what town do you live in, Brenda?
I live in Bristol.
Thank you. Let's see. I guess the Zoom user is Barb Torian. Christopher Ross, did we call on you?
You did, thanks.
Okay, and Bill Jesdale, I don't think answered. Eugenie didn't answer.
I'm here.
Oh, Eugenie, we'll go back to you.
Yeah, Eugenie Doyle, Moncton. I have 3 kids who graduated from Moncton and Mount Abe.
Great, thank you. Patty Schoen, I can't read the rest of your name.
Patty Schoenhuber, and I am a teacher at the Lincoln Community School, and I have 2 sons who have recently graduated from Mount Abe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Sue Bonacontro.
Hi, I'm Sue Bonacontro from Bristol. I've had 5 kids go through Mount Abe, and I have 3 grandchildren that 2 of them are still there and 1 of them has graduated.
Well, you might get a hero medal. The person identified on the screen is Deb.
Hey there, I'm Deb Rickner. I'm the art teacher at Bristol Elementary School. I'm a Moncton resident. I had 3 kids who graduated from Moncton and Mount Abe. And
Thank you, Deb. Oh,
what's that?
Go ahead.
That's okay. That's all I have to say.
I don't mean to cut anybody off. Doug DeWitt.
Yeah, this is Doug DeWitt with living here in Bristol. I have 2 kids who have graduated from Mount Abe, and yeah, that's it.
Your wife works there.
And my wife works at Mount Abe. So yeah.
And she's not going to let you get away without mentioning that. The person identified as Rob.
Hi, I'm Rob Leotard. I live in Starksboro. My wife is also here, and I'm one of the mentors and also on the district mentor advisory council.
Okay. And Linda S. Reynolds. Is Linda S.
Yes, I'm here, and I can come on and show my face.
Okay, do that.
1 son who graduated from Mount Abe, and I taught there for 19 years, and happily retired.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
At the Coco Mosley.
Hi there, I'm a Lincoln resident and the parent of a future elementary school student who's sitting here with me right now.
Excellent. Tori Riley. Tori, you're the building principal up in.
Yeah, I am. I was just getting all the buttons correct. I'm Tori Riley. I'm the principal at the Lincoln Community School, and I have one son who went to the Lincoln Community School and Mount Abe, and now is actually the sous chef at the Lincoln Community School. So the meals are really taking a turn, both at school and at home now that we have a sous chef in the family.
For the better.
For the better, yes.
Excellent. Never can tell. So, Christy Sumner.
Hello. I
Oh,
am
there's Christy.
a past parent. I'm a grandparent now. And I've been on the school board for several sessions or whatever over the last many years. And yes, and I was a teacher at Bristol Elementary School. And that's me. I've been in it for a while. Glad to be here.
All right. Is there anybody, earlier on, I saw somebody on by telephone, but I'm not seeing that now. Is there anybody who hasn't had a chance to introduce himself?
So Pam, it's Barb Torrey, and Tim Boughton is here as well. And I think I was probably your phone caller while I was trying to get on.
Oh, all right. And so then you became Zoom user. All right.
Pam, I'm seeing
Well, thank you.
Pam, I'm seeing a couple of mics still open if you want to remind people.
Oh, yes. If you're not talking, please mute up. Now, if you want to talk, you could either raise your electronic hand or raise a physical hand. Now, if you raise a physical hand, you better have your camera on because, you know, I don't have x-ray vision through the net to see that you've got your hand up. And since I've got two screens of people, I have to go back and forth. So we're going to go through the warning as usual. And if you want to speak on any article or discuss anything, as you know, everything is being voted by Australian ballot on March 2nd in the local town. So we're not taking any votes tonight, and that's due to COVID restrictions. And I hope by next year we'll all be together again in the small cafeteria or even the large cafeteria or the auditorium where these meetings used to be when I first started moderating them. So, all right, the official warning. The League of Voters of Mount Abraham Unified School District, consisting of the towns of Bristol, Lincoln, Moncton, New Haven, and Starksboro, are hereby notified and warned to meet via Zoom, see link information below, on Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021 at 6 p.m. to discuss the articles to be voted upon by Australian ballot, Articles 1 through 9. I'm not going to read the link because you're either here or you're not. Article 1. To elect a moderator who shall assume office immediately and serve a one-year term or until election and qualification of a successor. So I'm your leftover moderator from last year. I don't know what you do today. I guess you elect a moderator. I guess that comes up on Australian ballot next week. I mean, in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, unless somebody objects, I'm going to run this meeting. Anybody object? Anybody else want to do this?
I think you might
All
be
right.
stuck with it, Pam.
What was that?
I said, I
Is that
think
you,
you might be
Steve?
stuck with it.
I might be stuck with it. All right. We've got two more. I see Herb Olson has joined us. Herb, do you want to introduce yourself? We've all introduced ourselves. That's about it.
You hear me?
Yep, now we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, Pam. I'm not sure what the process is, but yeah, I'm here.
And what town are you in, Herb? You from Moncton, Herb?
No, I'm from Starksboro.
Starksboro. I couldn't remember. I knew it was one of those towns.
Yeah, way off in the boonies, Pam.
One of the hill towns.
Yes.
All right.
The boondocks, as they talk.
All right. So if I notice new people coming in, I will ask them to introduce themselves. But meantime, we're going to proceed to item 2 on the warning, since nobody else wants to take over this meeting. Article 2 is to elect a clerk who will assume office July 1, 2021 and serve a 1-year term until their election and qualification of a successor. I think the board just nominated the incumbents for these positions for lack of anything else. Is that true, Jennifer Bauer?
No, Pam, I sent out some information through social media asking if there was anyone who wanted any of the 3 positions and to send me a form like you filled out, and only one person for each position sent in forms.
Okay. And I assume you sent in a form?
I did.
And Barb Torian, article number 3, did you send in your form?
I did.
All right. So I think we'll move on to article 4, which is also truly exciting. Article 4, shall the legal voters of the Mount Abraham Union High School approve a salary of $50 for the moderator? Shall the legal voters of the Mount Abraham Union Unified School District approve the salary of $1,200 for the clerk? Shall the legal voters of Mount Abraham Union Unified School District approve the salary of $7,200 for the treasurer? Shall the legal voters of Mount Abraham Union Unified School District approve the salary of $2,400 for the board chair? And shall the legal voters of Mount Abraham Unified School District, I got it right, approve the salary of $1,200 for each board member? Does anybody want to discuss any aspect of Article 4?
Do you need a motion, Pam?
No, because we can't vote on anything. So it's just a question.
Of course. Sorry about that.
Anybody wants to speak on whether these salaries are extravagant to, we can't increase them, we can't decrease them because that's what's on the ballot. But somebody can speak to whether these are extravagant or not enough for future clarification. Paul.
They are not nearly enough. The only job tougher than being on the select board is being on the school board. And I say that sincerely. So maybe next time we can raise those.
And thank you, Paul, for your comment. Anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, they seem like token amounts for the hard work, and it's much appreciated.
That's Jamie Schulte.
Correct.
Jennifer didn't get that. Anybody else want to comment on any aspect of Article 4? I'm not seeing any hands. Dawn, are you seeing any hands?
Yes, Steve Rooney has his hand up.
Oh, okay, Steve. Go for it.
I think we should consider giving Pam a little raise myself.
Well, you offered me a raise before, and I figured that $50 was enough. Thanks, Steve. Anybody else have a hand up? All right, now we're going to move on to Article 5. Shall the legal voters of the Mount Abraham Unified School District accept the reports of the school district directors and officers? Those are the reports that are contained in your book or online if you didn't get a book. Does anybody have questions about those reports or comments on them? We can't approve them or disapprove them tonight, but we can comment on them if we wish. Herb, you want to comment?
Well, just the silence is killing me. So last year, the voters approved the creation of an education reserve fund. And the definition of the scope categories of expenditures that could be made from the fund were a little general, which is fine. But the suggestion was that it would be made up in terms of lack of specificity by having a report that showed what expenditures were going to be made from the fund. And I might have missed it, but I didn't see, anything like that in the report. And I'm just curious as to, whether that's somewhere else or I think just as a matter of good practice, if you have a fund, you probably should,
Okay. Is the superintendent the best person to answer that question?
Yeah, I can start it off, and then if we dig deeper into details, I might turn it to Floyd. But there were no expenses from the Education Reserve Fund, so there wouldn't be anything to show there. But I agree that it should show up on the sort of other funds page, and I don't think we have that reported. Unless I'm missing where that's reported. So Floyd, if it exists somewhere in these reports, you could point us to it, but I think that it is not shown here. But I think both the Ed Reserve and the other one is the Capital Reserve, Herb. I think both should show up in here. I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Dave, sure.
Thank you. Are we commenting on the annual report? Just to be clear?
Yes, we're commenting on this.
Okay, so I'd like to refer to page 27 in the annual report where it talks about tax rates. So there's what I believe to be a misstatement at the bottom of, it's actually item 27 on page 27. It says prorated union income cap percentage for members of the Mount Abraham USD. So the only cap on an income percentage is for households with an income of $47,000 or less. I believe this is what this is talking about is the projected income rate for households who pay their school taxes, education taxes, by virtue of their income. And that rate projection is on the laid out there. And Floyd, maybe you can correct me if I'm reading these numbers incorrectly. I want to take this opportunity to explain to voters it's coming up on tax season. And 2/3 of our residents, roughly, give or take, pay their education taxes by virtue of their income, not their property tax rate. Although much of the talk is about what the property tax rate is. 2/3 of our residents pay by virtue of income in a very complex manner. So first, you have to fill out your homestead income form as a part of filing your income tax this April. And that income tax report that you file this April is talking about income in 2020. So in fact, what this income rate that's indicated on page 27 is a percentage of your income in 2020, even though the property tax rates, which are talked about above, are the property values as of April 1st, 2021. So it's commonly referred to as a look back, because income tax, people who pay by virtue of income are paying by virtue of their previous year's income. And so for households that household income, which is a broader definition of income than your W-2 form, and is if that income is lower than 2019, then your income, then your education payment is going to be lower. The way this is reflected on your property tax bill that you'll receive from your town treasurer is that you'll see it as a credit on your property tax bill. So this is not well understood and certainly not well explained. But it is true that roughly 2/3 of our residents with household incomes of less than $137,000 for the household are going to have a credit on their property tax bill that reflects paying part or all of their education taxes by virtue of their income. So I just wanted to make that clear. I think it should be page 1 of any property tax or education tax explanation, because that's the overwhelming number of our residents pay by virtue of income. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Well, you've been mentioned a couple of times. First, in connection with the initial question we had about listing those fund balances in the report. Are they reflected in the report?
They are not. They will be in the following years. We have not spent any of the money that we have allocated to those funds at this point. It's not, our auditors have not required us to put it in, but I think it makes great sense for us to reflect it for our neighbors and our community, and we'll do that going forward.
Do you happen to have those figures with you so that you could tell the voters of the district how much is in the capital improvements fund right now and how much is in the I forget, the education fund?
I can. The 250,000 in the ed reserve fund, and I don't have the number in front of me. It was deposited the previous year.
600,000.
600,000 even. Yeah.
So is that what's in the educational reserve fund would be 600,000 plus 250,000?
No, I'm sorry. I'll restate it. There are two funds. One, the education reserve fund with $250,000 in it, and the second, a capital reserve fund with $600,000
in it. Okay. Thank you. That's clarified. Did that answer, Herb, your question?
Yes, I understand that. And yeah, I think Patrick and Floyd were thinking they'll put something together for the next report, and that sounds good to me.
Okay. Now, Dave, did you want Floyd to confirm what you said, or I'm not sure that anybody disagrees with what you said, but
So yeah, it would be helpful if he confirmed that cap word is incorrectly applied. I believe it is, but it would be good to have confirmation.
Well, my confirmation on that, it's a state form that we're required to file. So we don't change it. We make no changes to that line. So I don't really have an answer for you, Dave. My sense is that if it's the form that's coming from the Agency of Education to be included in the annual report, then it's stated as they require it. I will take a look at it and determine whether or not there's an issue with it not having been updated, reflective of your understanding. But as in terms of the property tax being income sensitized to a large portion of our community, I couldn't agree more.
Thank you. So that's interesting that they would supply that word cap. There is a cap, as you probably know, and everybody should know, if a household income is 47,000 or less, there is a hard cap. I believe it's household income of 27,000 to 47,000. The cap is 5% of a combination of municipal and education taxes. So it may in some way relate to that, but I don't understand, and I think I'll follow up with the Agency of Education to get a better understanding.
thank you. Are there more comments on Article 5, I believe we're on, which are the reports? I'm not seeing more comments, so are you ready to move on to Article 6? All right. Article 6, shall the legal voters of Mount Abraham Unified School District authorize the district board of directors to borrow money by issuance of bonds or notes not in excess of anticipated revenues for the fiscal year 2021 to 2022 per 16 VSA section 562 subsection 9. Again, this is something that's going to be voted on March 2nd, like everything else is voted on March 2nd. Is there any discussion about this article? Doesn't seem really controversial. Article 7. Shall the legal voters of the Mount Abraham Unified School District authorize the school board of directors to deposit $300,000 of the district's unaudited fund balance to the Capital Reserve Fund? The total unaudited fund balance as of June 30, 2020 is $966,229. In consideration of the passage of this article and Article 8, the remaining $366,229 has been applied to the proposed budget to offset taxes. Is there any discussion on Article 7? Yes, Kristen Blanchette.
I know that I've gotten questions from a couple people in Moncton about what's the benefit of putting $300,000 into the Ed Reserve Fund, and doesn't that give too much leeway to spend it on anything that people want to. So I didn't know if Patrick or Floyd could explain a little bit about why we're doing that and why it's a prudent idea.
Before we get to that, because that's actually Article 8, is the Ed Reserve Fund. And we're right now in Article 7, which is the Capital Reserve Fund. Is there any discussion on the Capital Reserve Fund? And I have to go let my dog into my office here, so I'm listening.
Pam, I can speak to just sort of generally speaking, why put money into reserve funds, and it applies to both the capital reserve, but also the ed reserve when we get there, if that's helpful.
Okay, Patrick, go for it.
So each year, it's pretty typical that school districts end the year with a fund balance. And there are some options that the school board has in terms of what to do with that fund balance, and some of those typically that requires action from the electorate. But those funds can either be placed into a reserve account, whether it's a capital reserve or an ed reserve, or they can go to offset taxes for the following year. The problem with using that reserve fund the fund balance to offset taxes is that shows up as a revenue. And when you can't sustain that revenue for a year when you're building the next budget, you've effectively created a revenue shortfall that has to be made up with increased taxes or cutting spending. And so it's very wise to apply as little as possible of a fund balance to offset taxes in the following year, to avoid kind of digging yourself a hole that you may or may not be able to dig out of very easily for the next budget building cycle. So that's a concept behind why to put money into reserve accounts. In addition to that, when we're looking at a capital reserve account, as this is, it's no secret that we have capital needs, that our facilities are in need. And so by applying some of these fund balance dollars to, in this case, a capital reserve fund, that not only does that help us in future budget building cycles, but it also helps to build a fund that we can tap into to address some of those capital needs. A couple of examples of needs that we know are on the horizon, just thinking about Mount Abe specifically at this point. We know Mount Abe is going to need a roof in the near future. We're projecting that to be somewhere around $1.5 million. We also know that the main electrical feed into Mount Abe, which is original, also needs to be replaced. We're estimating that to be around, I think, $1 million. So with big buildings that are aging come big dollars that need to be put into them to maintain them. And that capital reserve account helps to do that.
Are there any other questions or comments on the Capital Reserve Fund, Article 7?
Pam?
Herb, go for it.
Patrick, I'm having trouble with the math on that. So you got we're going to deposit. You propose the board's proposing to deposit 300,000. The balance as of June was 966,000, and then it says the remaining 366 has been applied to the proposed. The remaining of what? Of what's still in it as of now, or I don't quite get the math there.
Yeah, I can help explain that. So there are two articles that are asking voters to put money into different reserve accounts. So we have a total of 966,000, which is unaudited. Our auditors are still working right now, so we don't have a full audit yet, but we're pretty confident in that 966. So we have 966,000 of fund balance. The recommendation and what's put forth before the voters is 300,000 into a capital reserve, 300,000 into an education reserve. So that's a total of 600,000. And the remaining 366, which you'll see in each of the two articles, is what makes up the 966. So it was trying to articulate the relationship between the two articles that we're requesting to put funds into the two different reserve accounts.
Yeah, okay, I get the reserve. I get the math.
Does anybody else have comments on Article 7? We're going to get to Article 8 in just a moment, and I think some of what the superintendent had to say had to do with both Articles 7 and 8. I'm not seeing any hands. Dawn, are you seeing any that I've missed?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So we'll move on to Article 8. Shall the legal voters of Mount Abraham Unified School District authorize the school board of directors to deposit $300,000 of the district's unaudited fund balance in the Education Reserve Fund? The total unaudited fund balance as of June 30th, 2020 is $966,229. In consideration of the passage of this article and Article 7, the remaining $366,229 has been applied to the proposed budget to offset taxes. So basically the same thing with respect to the Education Reserve Fund. Does anybody have questions about the Education Reserve Fund or what this article means?
Yeah, maybe I could just take 1 minute to explain the difference between the education reserve and capital reserve and what those two accounts can do and can't do.
Please.
So the capital reserve we just talked about is pretty specifically for building improvements and upgrades. It can't be used for really anything other than that. The education reserve fund has a lot more flexibility and basically can be used for just about anything that isn't capital eligible. So having the two accounts enables the board to have different approaches to address different kinds of needs. Another really important understanding here is the capital reserve account requires electorate authorization to spend from. The education reserve fund, the board has the authority to spend from. So that's sort of a really quick overview of the two different accounts and some of the differences between them. We can go into further detail, but that was the idea. I guess I will also add part of the thinking in putting money into the education reserve fund was in light of the financial challenges on the horizon to have money in the education reserve fund that's a little more flexibly applied may give the board some wiggle room to navigate the challenges that are ahead of us that perhaps we couldn't take advantage of if those funds were in a capital reserve account.
Yes, Brenda Tilburg.
Just a comment, I found those two articles very confusing. And somebody who just receives the ballot when they go to vote may not read them through, say, 3 times carefully to sort out what fund is what fund and that you've repeated the numbers. So you may get some strange results which are not due to what the voters intended. That's all.
Thank you. Are there other comments or concerns? Dawn, are you seeing anybody that I've missed?
No, I'm not.
And if somebody has their camera off and wants to speak, if they unmute, we'll probably see you. Look one more time before we move on. I'm not seeing anybody with their hand up.
Nothing's changed over here.
Did you see someone, Dawn?
Nope. No hands.
All right, Article 9. Shall the Mount Abraham Unified School District adopt a budget of $31,753,310 for the school year 2021 to 2022? It is estimated that this budget amount, if approved, will result in education spending of $18,572.59 per equalized pupil. This proposed spending per equalized pupil is 0.18% higher than the spending for the current year. So does anybody have questions about this budget? Patrick, I see you've unmuted.
Yeah, I have a brief presentation that will kind of walk folks through some of the particulars, and then we can try to answer questions that folks may have.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, I'll share my screen to show the presentation. All right, Pam, can you see that okay?
It's blurry.
Patrick, I think you have the wrong screen up.
All right, I wonder which screen I have. Try that again. How about, there we go. Thanks, Steve. That was it. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things I guess I'll start with is just an acknowledgement that timing is not ideal, we'll say, in building budgets in education. So the board had its final sort of budget presentation from us on January 26th, and that was really toward the tail end of the window in which the board had to act to adopt a budget in order for it to be warned in time for town meeting and things. And some things have changed and changed fairly substantially since then. So the information that's on the ballot, that's in the annual report, is actually not accurate from what will be reality. And this is not uncommon. This happens every year, that things change to varying degrees from the time a board adopts a budget to the actual impact that budget's going to have on taxpayers. So this presentation is an attempt to provide updated information that's actually more accurate than the information that's in the annual report, and that's what's going to be on the ballot. And I should also say that there's still plenty of room for these figures to move from tonight moving forward. So some assumptions behind what you're seeing in these February figures. Some are similar, some are a little different than the assumptions that have been made in prior presentations. It does assume that we're not filling one-year positions or positions that we didn't fill in the FY21 year. You can see what those FTEs are. It assumes an increase of 0.52 equalized pupil from last year. We were, our last projection was a decrease of a little over 7 equalized pupils based on the last figure we got from the state. The most recent figure we got from the state after they made some corrections that we were anticipating, but decided we couldn't include in a presentation because we didn't have anything in writing, shows an increase of just over half an equalized pupil. And this is a direct result of a decision at the legislative level to hold districts harmless. So instead of using the actual enrollment and the actual sort of equalized pupils from this year, we were held harmless for any decrease that we might have seen. So it doesn't accurately reflect what we have for students, but it is the figure we're using for equalized pupils. We talked about the fund balance of $966,000. The spending threshold that we're assuming will hold is an increase of 0.18%. Typically, that's an increase of 2.3% or 2.5%. But with the COVID economy, that only went up 0.18. We are making assumptions about what our revenue is, and this does assume that the 9.9% increase in the healthcare premiums sticks, which we feel pretty confident it will. So those are some of the assumptions behind the figures that you're seeing. We talked about the use of the fund balance. I feel like we've addressed everything here, so I'll move on from this. And here again is what it looks like with that $366,229 applied to offset taxes. It's about a 1.13% increase in spending. And actually that 0.18% increase in cost per pupil didn't get updated. I apologize, that's not accurate. What I do want to point out is from the last presentation the board saw, our spending has not changed, our revenue projection has not changed, and our education spending has not changed. So any of the differences you see had nothing to do with anything that we've done as a school district. They've all been a direct result of changes that are happening statewide with what our equalized pupil count is that we're given and what the yield is. So those two factors exclusively are what have led to the changes. So as you see here, our equalized pupil count is higher than what we were expecting from the last presentation on the 26th. And when we keep our education spending the same and we increase the number of equalized pupils that we think we're going to have, our cost per pupil goes down. So what you were seeing on the annual report and on the warning is a 0.18% increase in the spending per equalized pupil, but it's actually a decrease, right? So we're decreasing by $75. I haven't calculated that percentage, but it's actually less spending per equalized pupil in FY22 than it is in the current year of FY21.
Patrick, that's a 0.4 drop in our equalized pupil spending.
Thank you, Floyd. So one of the things we've often tried to do in years past, and we have been this year, is because these numbers tend to change pretty frequently, try to capture what were we saying in October and what were we then saying in November and December and January, and how have those changed over time. So trying to keep that going for tonight's annual meeting. These February figures, as I mentioned, our spending hasn't changed. So if you look at that far right column, spending hasn't changed, revenue hasn't changed, ed spending hasn't changed. You can see the change in our equalized pupil, increase of 8.5 from where we were before when we were talking about January numbers. The projected cost per equalized pupil is a little over, just under $109 less than what we were projecting in January. The spending threshold, we're still projecting to be at that 18,789. And again, for us, having not changed any spending, revenue, or the ed spending, where we were projecting to be about 53,000 under the spending threshold, we're now projecting to be about 212,000 under the spending threshold. And this sort of speaks to Dave's point earlier. I wanted to highlight where we were projecting the tax impacts to be when we last met in on January 26th compared to tonight. So this is looking at folks who pay based on income, which, as Dave said, is about 2/3, maybe even a little more than 2/3 in Addison County of our residents. So we were projecting about a $78 increase using the median income from 2018, which was the most recent median income we were able to find. That would have been a 4.28% increase. But again, with no changes on our part, but changes to the equalized pupil and changes to the yield, we're now looking at a $33 increase, which is 1.8%. When we look at what happens to the tax rate for those that pay based on property value, you see the January 26th set of figures up above and the February 23rd figures below. So in every instance, it's a decrease in the property tax rate, again, driven entirely by what's going on with equalized pupil count and yield. And when we really kind of bring this down to what does that mean in terms of dollars? So again, this top section shows the January 26th figures. So in January 26th, we were thinking changes per 100,000 of assessed value would be, a slight decrease in Lincoln of $26 per 100,000, upwards to as much as a $63 increase in Bristol. Again, with the new yield and the new equalized pupil, we're looking at a decrease in 3 of our 5 towns now, by anywhere from $10 to $55, to a slight increase in Moncton at just under $6 per 100,000, and a slightly larger increase in Bristol of $30 per 100,000. So a fair bit different from even where we were on January 26th with those changes that have surfaced since then. So that's just a really quick overview of the financials, and we can certainly answer questions related to that.
Mhm. So in other words, the budget that we have, that we're voting on is projected to be higher than the budget that will actually be in place.
Right.
Is that a fair summary?
Yes, depending on how you interpret what you said. The spending is not any higher. The spending hasn't changed. And so that dollar figure of 31,753,310 hasn't changed. The impact that figure has on taxpayers has changed. And the cost per pupil has also changed. So the cost per pupil is higher on the warning and on the ballot than what the actual cost per pupil is looking to be now. So that's probably the most notable change that you would see on the ballot. Well, you won't see on the ballot, but that's what's most different from what you see.
Are there questions and comments with respect to the budget and the superintendent's report?
Dave Sharp has his hand up, Pam.
Dave, thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to reiterate about those paying by income. It is critically important that you fill out the homestead income declaration form as a part of your income tax form that's going to be sent in by April 15th unless you get an extension. That's what qualifies you for paying by income. If you don't fill that form out, then you pay by the penny, what I refer to by the penny rate or the property tax rate. So tell all your friends and neighbors, fill out that household income form as a part of your income tax on April 15th. And if your income went down from 19 to 20, which is the case for many of our citizens who got laid off because of COVID, that will further reduce your education taxes.
And Pam, Kristen Blanchett has her hand up.
Okay, she must be on a different, Kristen, go for it.
I'm on a different page. Thank you. So I just wanted to put out there, I put this out at our last meeting, that in other communities in Vermont, when there have been contentious issues that the school board has been working on, the school budget has been voted down. And I feel like this is a very good school budget with very reasonable tax rates coming out. So I would urge people to vote for this budget. I think it's good for kids and teachers in the community. And to, nothing about school consolidation is in this budget. This is completely separate from that. And that we have those discussions and separately, and that people vote. I urge people to vote for this budget. It's a good budget. And to keep the other issues separate for us to discuss. Thank you.
I have a question, if I may ask one as a moderator, and that is for people who do have concerns about school consolidation, will there be an opportunity to vote on that, or is that a decision of the board? Patrick, can you answer that, or Dawn?
I don't know that that's determined yet, I guess is how I would say that.
Okay.
So Pam, we had decided to move any final decision of anything until August. And so there'll be a lot of time for every month now. We're having a dedicated meeting to that topic on the every other week after our regular meetings. So no decisions have been made. We're still problem solving. Thank you for asking that, though.
Thank you. Herb, you're unmuted, so did you want to speak?
It was a great question, Pam. It's a highly, it's a big issue about whether or not towns are going to have an opportunity to vote. I would just say, no matter what the legal issues are, we gotta reach a consensus on this stuff because you just can't have, one group sort of overpowering another. So I'm really thankful that the board and the district decided to take some time. And I hope the time will be used to really try to get some consensus around listening to people and trying to come up with a financially feasible scenario going forward. Great question, Pam.
Well, moderators are not really supposed to ask questions, but there are people. Yes, Rob Backlund's got his hand up.
Sorry not to change that topic, but I guess because these numbers are bouncing around. Patrick, I did have one question. The mailer that we got in the mail, or everyone would have got, Article 9, the equalized pupil spending is 18,752. And then when I look at the number that's in our annual report, Article 9 is 18,572. So I guess which one are the voters going to see at town meeting day? Is it 18,572 or 18,752, which is reflected in the mailer? Even though those numbers aren't where there's are at the moment.
So neither of those are real, but the one that's going to actually show up on the ballot should be 18,572 as it shows up in the annual report. There must have just been a reversal of numbers in the flyer that went out that didn't get caught.
So, Pam, may I add a comment?
Yes, Dawn.
So that state form on page 27 has the number 18,752.
Yeah, without the ballot sitting right in front of me right now, I can't confirm for sure. I would have thought so the document that's in here as the warning was leaned on most heavily in terms of working with the company and the ballot. Jennifer's coming in with an actual ballot right here, so we can confirm. 18,572.59 is on the ballot.
Okay. So from that, we can understand that there may have been a typo in the state form or on the ballot, but that 18,572 is on the ballot.
Correct.
Okay, are there other questions? Eugenie.
Yeah, Kristen, I heard what you said, and I appreciate very much you're making the distinction between voting on this budget and expressing dissatisfaction with the proposal to consolidate and close schools. I would think it would be, I think it would be a good service to the board to have a public statement to that effect before this vote, because there has not been a decision about whether towns will get to vote on the closing of their schools. And this is something that people can vote on. I mean, certainly you must feel that there may be a dissatisfaction vote that really has nothing to do with this budget. And if you could clarify either through Front Porch Forums or some other means that that the board is, especially if you could say that you were leaning towards listening to voters' concerns about the closures, I would think that this budget would have a much better chance of passing.
All right. I hope the board has heard that. There are other people with questions. Or comments on the budget. I'm not seeing anyone. Dawn, are you seeing anybody that I'm missing?
Nope, I think Eugenie still has her hand up from before, and that's the only one I can see.
And I'm not seeing anybody unmuted. We don't have an other business article because that's not a kind that you can vote by Australian ballot. And normally we could have a discussion that went beyond these articles. But given that other business can't be voted by Australian ballot, it makes it kind of difficult. So I guess I'm ready to hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I actually have a question I was hoping to ask. I didn't realize we were at general questions. This is Deb talking. Hold on.
And I'm not seeing, oh, there you are, Deb.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't realize we were at the end of the meeting. I thought there was going to be time for other questions. I just have a quick question about, maybe it's not so quick, but and don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely thrilled about the renovations at Mount Abe and how gorgeous the front outside looks and the auditorium I'm dying to see now that it's done. I'd love to get into the locker rooms and see that, you know, what's been done. I wish that had been done during the time that my kids were there. I mean, I think it's great. I've just been wondering though, what's paying for that? Where's the money coming from that? Where are the decisions that all that money was being spent at Mount Abe when we're considering closing schools and consolidating and all that kind of stuff? How much did that cost and where did the money come from?
Patrick?
Yeah, so a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I don't think it was quite 5, but 4 years ago, the then Mount Abe board, specifically the Mount Abe Middle High School board, voted to put $1 million into its operating fund for capital improvements. And that $1 million still exists in the MAUSD budget. So that's where the money comes from. And the thinking behind that is for really decades, when budgets were tight, where the money came from was facilities. And the result is a 50-year-old building that has tens of millions of dollars in need. And so it was agreed 4 or 5 years ago that we can no longer not address the needs of the building. And so there's certainly an aesthetic value to the improvements to the front entrance that you mentioned. There's also accessibility improvements to that. There's a functionality in terms of the grit and dirt and grime that's carried into the building. So there are other features beyond what I think is a pleasing aesthetic component. Likewise, thinking about the auditorium upgrades, there comes a point at which there are liabilities. So there were broken chairs, people were having articles of clothing torn, people getting pinched from the old broken plastic chairs. So that was part of the consideration in making that upgrade. And then the locker rooms, as we all know, had mold not too long ago. So there were issues we knew about, and there were issues we hoped to never learn about. Which prompted the complete renovation of those spaces. And part of the strategy has been, you know, in light of the ongoing conversations and wondering about what's ever going to happen with a bond or no bond at Mount Abe, we've been trying to be really strategic about what improvements we make so that we don't spend a bunch of money improving an area that then ends up getting demolished or relocated in a more substantial renovation should that ever happen. So it's been a little bit tricky. It hasn't been too tricky so far. If you think about, like, the front entrance is going to stay the front entrance in any renovation. The auditorium is going to stay the auditorium. The locker rooms are going to stay the locker rooms. So we felt pretty safe with those areas of need, upgrading them and feeling like that's money well spent. as we work out from there to try and address some other needs, at some point we're going to run into kind of committing to doing something or keeping something someplace in the absence of a long-term plan for what the renovation looks like. But that has been a factor as well in terms of what projects we tackle.
Okay, thank you. I have one other question about is the is anything ever going to be done about the sculpture out front? You know, the sculpture that was originally supposed to rust, and that was the art, and instead it's been painted with Rust-Oleum. If anybody ever wants to do anything with that, call me. I'd like to help you with that.
It's funny you say that. I've raised that too, right? So that's the thing. As you make improvements, certain things that didn't stand out so much before tend to stand out a little bit more.
It's always stood out, that thing.
I've had the same wondering about like what, and so boy, like if school consolidation is this level of controversy, what we do with that art out front is just beneath that. Like there are a lot of people that feel pretty passionately about what should or shouldn't happen with that.
Well, it needs to stay, but we need to, you do understand that the original plan for that was, because it was built during the 60s, the original plan was for it to rust, and that was the art. And then somebody over the years painted Rust-Oleum over it to stop it from rusting. So what we need to do is we need to just paint it or do something with that yellow Rust-Oleum, okay?
I completely agree. I know Shannon does. I bet she's still online. She's not a resident of the 5 towns, so I'm sure we could hear her speak if that was allowed. But I think we're all on the same page. Something needs to happen. It's just getting up the energy and the motivation to make it happen and determining what's it going to be. And perhaps involving the students is an opportunity as well.
Yeah.
I saw Shannon giving you a thumbs up there.
Okay, good.
And Deb smiling when you were saying that. Floyd.
Deb, I'd like to speak. You know, it's great we've got all this beautiful stuff that we've done. The locker room does look great. The front looks great. The auditorium is wonderful. But we also have a 5-foot cement block out in the back of Mount Aid that is near and dear to my heart. We spent $200,000 replacing the fuel tanks that were leaking and upgrading the burners from 62% to 84%. So there's that capital improvement doesn't just go into what looks great. You know, there's some real infrastructure that's happening as well that you'll only see if you walk around out back and see that new piece of cement back there.
And keeping that going, we put over $100,000 into the pool filtration system that was original, that was in desperate need of replacement. If you see the pool, and that's the hard part, right? We've done all these things to all these spaces that nobody gets to access right now.
Right.
The pool is the cleanest it's been probably in 50 years. And things we're bringing things back to the state they should be in if we're going to have them, which is really exciting.
Herb, you've unmuted yourself. Herb?
Oh, yeah. So, Patrick and Floyd, has anyone ever considered using some of the capital fund for, things like solar panels, energy efficiency, that kind of thing? I think it would be probably right up the line there, and probably a cost saver and good for everyone.
We have. Those conversations have definitely come up. I think our approach has been first to reduce energy consumption from an energy perspective before looking for green alternatives. I also think it's tricky. Like, I think there's great benefit there and it would save money, but that also becomes money that we don't have to invest in decrepit bathrooms and other areas of need. So really weighing all those variables, it hasn't been prudent yet to invest what would be substantial investment into the solar yet. And part of that factors into, if we were going to put it on the roof, knowing the roof needs replacement soon, the timing of that is another consideration. But the conversation's come up a few times and it just hasn't quite made sense yet to do that. Though I think it makes great sense at some point when the timing's right to take advantage of the real estate. There's a lot of real estate on that rooftop that could be very productive and make sense in the long run.
And I'll speak briefly. You see a small change in our electricity line in our budget this year, and that stems from finding that the solar array at Robinson was only, all of the funds to that was only going to Robinson, and any excess was expiring at the end of 12 months. So we uncovered that this year and are now applying that excess to Mount A. So we're going forward with a savings. So we're near and dear and looking for those nickels wherever we can find them. And we had a solar array that we, who knows how long, was just expiring based on how it was set up when it came in.
All right. Are there further comments theoretically on the budget, because we don't have a Are people now ready for a motion to adjourn?
Am I able to just give a quick thank you?
Is that Barb?
No, it's Don Griswold.
Okay. Okay, I switched my screen. Yes, of course, Don.
So we have a board member leaving this year after a couple of years of service, and I just wanted to say thank you to Sarah McLean from Lincoln, who's leaving us, and thank you for your service.
Thank you all for your hard work. Good luck. I'll be supporting you.
Okay. So I'm
Don't
still looking for a motion to adjourn.
I may move that we adjourn, Pam. Don Griswold.
Oh, Don. And
I'll second Andrew Morton.
Andrew Morton is seconding it. I guess if you're in favor of adjourning, wave your hands or put your thumbs up or whatever. Maybe I should say, if you're not in favor of adjourning, turn your camera on and put your thumb down. Well, near as I could tell, it was a majority that wanted to adjourn. So unless there's a disagreement with the chair, we will end the meeting at this point.
No disagreement here.
And just
Thank you very much, everybody. And don't forget to vote on Tuesday, March 2nd in your town. All of the polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. And I think there's still barely time enough to get an absentee ballot if you don't want to go in person. Thank you.
And just one point of clarification, the regular business meeting for the board is happening immediately following this meeting. There was a different link for that. So if you go to the agenda for that regular board meeting, the link is there.
Okay. And board members, take a quick 5-minute function break before we go, because I think we're going to go a little longer on the next meeting.
All right. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to the board for your service.
Thank you, Pam.
Bye-bye.
Next.